Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the final session, the closing session of the Museums Association Conference, where we'll be reflecting on today and the whole week, and we'll also be asking what next. I'm Simon Stevens from the MA, and I'll be facilitating this session. Before I hand over to our conference host, Jean Cameron, there's the housekeeping announcements for one last time, which I'll quickly run through. Firstly, as you all know, as attendees, your cameras and microphones should be automatically disabled, but you can use the chat function, of course. You can also tweet using the hashtag Museums2020, and you can leave and rejoin the session at any time. We are recording the session, which will be available soon on the MA website. As ever, we have both audio description and live closed captioning. If you require audio description, please press interpretation at the toolbar at the bottom of the screen and select French. Please leave the original audio on, or you will not be able to hear the conference speaker. Live captioning is available at the bottom of the screen as well. To access it, press closed captioning and select show subtitles. So with that out of the way, I'm now going to hand over to our fantastic conference host, Jean Cameron.
Can you see me, Simon?
I can see you. Welcome back, Jean.
Oh, brilliant. Hands up, anybody, if you're ready for a little bit of after conference partying at 6:30 with Museums from Home. Yes, I can see hands going up all over the country. Brilliant. It's always nice to have a little bit of après-conference on a Friday afternoon, and Museums from Home have been brilliant. But first of all, it's good to be with you all again for this final session of The World Turned Upside Down, Exploring the Future of Museums, the Museums Association 2020 Annual Conference online. And what a week it has been to be thinking about this year's conference theme, Our World Turned Upside Down. There may well be uncertainty on the results of the US presidential elections on Tuesday, but one thing we did get clarity on this week is that the next 007 will be played by a Black person who's a woman, the lovely Lashana Lynch. So hang on in, everybody. The world turned upside down has its upsides too. In this closing session of the MA's annual conference, we will hear reflections on the debates and conversations that have been taking place across conference this week and consider what's next for museums. And I am delighted to be joining you for this closing event in the good company of Gillian Findlay, Curatorial and Engagement Manager at Museums Galleries Edinburgh, currently Vice President of the Museums Association, and Laura Pye, the Director of National Museums Liverpool, to discuss what we've learned during conference and what we need to do now. First, just a quick couple of snapshots from conference sessions today. Throughout the day, conference has really pulled on themes that we've had all week, themes of centering the public, radical action and activism, preparing nimbly for real and seismic changes that have been brought into sharp focus through the momentous events of 2020. And the first session today on slavery, colonialism and the public realm was just absolutely incredible. Fantastic speakers from across the country, and reminders, I think, from all the speakers were brilliant. And I loved Richard Benjamin from the International Slavery Museum reminding us museums are not islands, and that real rallying cry of working together with community leaders and leaders who can make change happening. And the rallying cry this week has really been about embodying change, taking personal responsibility. And in today's museum's responses to the climate emergency, there really was a call for each of us to step in, step up and take a personal responsibility for educating ourselves and speaking out about the climate and ecological emergency emergencies affecting everyone across the globe. Henry McGee, founder of Curating Tomorrow, talked about challenging the unsustainable structures. Alison Tickle from Julie's Bicycle talked about people embodying the change. For me, those were messages that I could have taken away from any session across conference and across today's panels in particular. And while the panelists in that session in climate emergency were grappling with grappling and had different viewpoints on being identified as activists, they were absolutely unanimous on the need for witnessing, sharing, lobbying and celebration. And these have been things that I think conference has really encouraged us to do this week: to witness, to share, to lobby and to celebrate. And on that note, and to hear more about a summary of what's happened at conference today, I'm going to pass over at this point to Gillian Findlay, who I should also say is President-elect for Museums Association, coming in to post in that capacity in March 2021. So Gillian, over to you.
Thank you so much, Jean. What a lovely introduction, and what a great summary, I think, of all the positives that have come out of conference this week. Oh, there is so much to reflect on though, isn't there? And so much potentially to action next. It really has been an incredible 5 days, but I have to start with some thank yous. Thank you, first of all, to Vocalise and to Stage Text, still working, and their unflagging work to ensure that all delegates have been able to follow conference throughout is vital. Their contribution has made such a difference, and it's appreciated, hugely appreciated. Thank you to my MA colleagues. They have all been working so hard throughout conference from behind their laptops, and they have made the coordination of tens of sessions, hundreds of speakers, and literally thousands of members and delegates into the right Zoom rooms at the right times look from out here completely seamless. I'm in awe of them, because I'm sure the logistics were not easy. With over 3,000 registrations for conference this year, attendances at major sessions of around 500 to 900 plus people, a huge number, and overall averaging around 500 attendees for each session. It can't have been easy, but you managed it beautifully. You've impressed us all. Thank you so much. Finally, for now anyway, I want to thank you, Jean. I hope you're still there. I want to thank you for being not only our host, but for being our anchor. You've been our much needed, warm, constant point of contact throughout conference this difficult year. The need for us all to take care of each other, to have hope and to show kindness has been a recurring theme from start to finish, and you have embodied that totally. Bright and early every morning, you've steered us up, you've helped us absorb and wind down again at night too, always with spot on summaries of the key debates and reflecting how all of us might be feeling. I'm sure I'm not alone, Jean, when I say I'm really going to miss seeing you every day. Perhaps we could arrange something to ease the withdrawal symptoms. But conference this year clearly has been unlike any other. It's certainly very different from the vision that the planning panel started off with nearly a year ago now. Then we anticipated the traditional format of conference, being it at the ECC in Edinburgh, a large venue holding thousands of people, where we'd hoped we'd be meeting in a context of recovery, revising and reconnecting as a sector with colleagues, with our visitors and communities, and with our partners, focusing on new realities and with the worst of the pandemic behind us. It hasn't quite worked out that way. As conference launched, the UK was in the grip of the second wave, with various degrees of lockdown being eased or being reintroduced across our 4 nations. We're clearly still reeling some of us still being directly impacted by the awful effects, both personally and professionally, brought by this dreadful disease, and certainly not able to travel or to meet together in any number. Thankfully, the decision was made by the MA several months ago to move conference online. And for me, even acknowledging this is neither accessible nor ideal for some of us, and believe me, I do acknowledge that digital exclusion is a harmful and a very real issue for many in our society. But even then, in the circumstances, I think virtual conference this year has brought overwhelmingly positive results. Free access to conference for all members. International participation by a range of outstanding speakers of stature without the expense in either financial or environmental terms of getting them to and from the UK. A longer but less intensive conference programme without the need to run sessions concurrently and squeeze content into just 3 days. But perhaps most strikingly for me, especially given the democratisation theme which has run through this conference in 2020, was the platform that online participation has given all of us here, members and delegates. Thank you, Zoom, for the mighty chat function and the great levelling tool that the Q&A function has turned out to be. The volume and the quality of the comment, question, challenge, and interchange throughout each day and each session has often rivaled, distractingly so, from the discussion going on between panelists and keynote speakers. I've genuinely never known a conference to be quite so participatory, and it felt absolutely right. Something I know which will be more challenging to recreate within the confines of a traditional physical conference, but something which the MA will still, I'm sure, want to consider. For many, in fact, the digital pivot, and I'm sorry if those are words that you've come to really hate since March, in the sector has been breathtakingly fast and enthusiastic, even if driven by necessity. We've shown as a sector that not only can we offer truly meaningful and impactful interactions, but that people across the globe are actively seeking opportunities to engage with cultural organisations online. Museums of all sizes have seen this as an opportunity to develop new ways of working, and we can't turn back now. But your feedback on this, as delegates and members, on the format of conference and on the content, of course, is hugely valuable. And your views will be sought as part of the annual membership survey, which is due to be circulated very soon after conference finishes. Please do take the time to complete it. Your Museums Association can only respond to your needs, advocate on your behalf, and support your museums and its people if it knows you well. Highlights of conference are always highly subjective, aren't they? But I would like to share just a few of mine and take the chance that you're in agreement, because so many of them have been absolutely exceptional this year. Please remember too that all content will be available to members over the next few weeks online. So if you've missed anything, if you haven't decided your highlights, there's still time to watch it all again and to catch up. The opening Black Lives Matter session with Sir Jeff Palmer, Dr. Errol Francis and Hilary Carty was simply electric. And the numbers suggest it was your top session, with just under 1,000 attendees that morning, on Monday morning. And it was an important session for many reasons, but a colleague summed it up to me when she said there's something that was really powerful on Monday morning about seeing 3 Black leaders on screen leading that discussion. It made her examine the diversity of all the subsequent panels. And as a result, while recognising that diversity is more than about race alone and that not all aspects are visible, it's clear there is work for us to do to be more representative when planning MA conference events and panels. I really enjoyed the Future of Museums session on Tuesday, which contained some really exciting and stimulating ideas, and the From an Era of Change into a Change of Era concept, which was wonderfully refreshing and uplifting. Our Sheroes, Janetta and Elaine, made the Learning from Our Elders session an exceptional event. It brought kinship to its centre and called for bravery and idealism. A colleague reported to me how she was heartened to hear about the progress experienced by Janetta from not being allowed into a museum as a Black woman to fighting for fair representation and power in these spaces. It made her feel hopeful in a time when she's struggling to express that emotion. Kindness and courage, which they both displayed in bucket loads, is the most powerful combination, surely. And it wasn't just their words. It was the warmth, the humour and the passion that they shared with each other and with us, their sisters and brothers, that made such an impact. The other international speakers were equally memorable and equally impactful. Zina, Arida and Beirut made many of us think again about our own troubles, while Lonnie Bunch, Smithsonian Secretary, in discussion yesterday with David Lammy MP, was truly inspiring. So what happens now? What are the next steps for the Museums Association? Well, we have a number of commitments in place that are going to help to progress some of the key issues and sector needs which were expressed loudly and clearly during conference. In terms of Black Lives Matter and anti-racism, we will act on our commitment to lead a sector-wide anti-racism campaign. We will renew and we will strengthen our international links and partnerships so that we can learn from and draw sustenance from colleagues overseas. The working group for decolonisation continues to be a priority for the MA, as is advancing the debate about restitution. We will support a network of museums that are doing this work so that they can share practice. In terms of funding, we're establishing a new partnership with UKRI on a digital innovation and engagement fund. A new partnership too with Crowdfunder on the Support Our Museums fundraising hub. And please remember, MA institutional members can still sign up for that. Check the recent newsletter for more information. We also want to support and provide platforms for and work with the networks in our sector which make museums more inclusive and tackle exclusion. And finally, now that the wonderful Learning and Engagement Manifesto has been launched, we're really looking forward to continuing to work with GEM, Engage and the Art Fund on dissemination. After the announcement at the AGM yesterday, I can't finish this evening without saying how honoured I feel and how much I look forward to becoming Museums Association President next year. This is an organisation that I care passionately about, and the people who make it up, the work they do, I believe is truly extraordinary. I have the hardest act to follow, however, and I do want to give special mention to the achievements of our current president, Maggie Appleton. Maggie has worked, as many of you know, tirelessly for our sector for many years and has overseen so many important developments and firsts with the MA during the last few. This includes securing record levels of membership, conference in Manchester, Belfast, Brighton, and now online, a joint advocacy event in Westminster, the recent membership review and policy development, including Museums Changes Lives to and empowering collections. Maggie has also overseen not just the emergency response to COVID in her own museums, but the overall response led by Sharon and the team of the MA. A huge and I imagine often exhausting task, but one that we all benefit from today. Maggie's compassionate and inclusive style of leadership has been commented on many times before, and with good reason. Personally, I don't think I've known a more authentic, grounded, and optimistic leader. Lonnie Bunch asked yesterday, if you're serious about social justice in museums, do you have the will to make the change? Maggie has demonstrated she has that will. And on her behalf, and with you, the members, I promise to demonstrate that too. Thank you. I'd like now to introduce Laura Pye, who you all know is the Director of National Museums Liverpool, to talk about conference next year and why Liverpool is going to be the place to be. Laura.
Thanks, Gillian. It's great to be here with you all. I mean, firstly, what a great conference. If I'm honest, the thought of a whole week of Zoom sessions didn't particularly fill me with joy. And I haven't managed to catch all of them, if I'm honest about that too. But the fact that they've been recorded means that I can catch up on the sessions that I've missed over the last week. And the fact that they've been recorded also means I'll be able to rewatch some of those highlights that I'm sure we'll all be doing. We probably all have our favourites that we want to rewatch at some point in the future. We're delighted that Liverpool is due to host conference next year, and we very much hope that you'll be able to join us. But this year's conference has shown us the value of digital, and we need to ensure that we don't go backwards, and that next year's conference allows in-person and virtual interaction to ensure as many as possible of you can take part. There's been some great sessions this week, and there's been a few key themes that I think we'll be talking about next year as well, and where I think Liverpool can really help to add to some of that discussion. So of course, one of the big themes of this year's conference has been COVID and the massive impact it's had on our communities, our businesses, and our personal well-being. I hope by next year's conference, our discussions around COVID are focused on how as a sector we are displaying and interpreting this part of our history. And I hope by then it is a part of our history. Many of you will be aware that Liverpool has a long and successful history in the development of public health. In 1847, we started the first public health department in Britain. In 1958, we piloted a whole population screening for a programme around tuberculosis. And today, we have started the first citywide mass testing programme for COVID-19. We hope that this testing programme will help us get a control of this virus and ensure that we can return to seeing our loved ones as soon as possible. And I hope that the success we hope to see here in Liverpool can be spread out across the rest of the country as soon as possible. I, of course, can't promise you that we will be COVID-free in Liverpool by the time of conference, but I can promise you one of the other big themes of this conference, which has been kindness. We've heard the word kindness used by numerous speakers over the week, and I can promise you that Liverpool is a city full of kindness. In fact, we were voted the kindest city in the UK in 2018, so I can promise you we've got that one covered. We're also a fairly emotional city, and we've heard a lot about emotion over the last week. I mean, who can forget the powerful emotion from that Wisdom of Elders session on Monday evening, which seems so long ago now, but I can't wait to see again as soon as it's published online. You'll be joining us next year during the 10th anniversary year of the Museum of Liverpool. 10 years, where did that go? By the time you arrive in the city, I hope that we'll be able to share with you a refreshed Wondrous Place gallery on the top floor of the museum. Alongside our People's Republic Gallery, these two galleries are designed to help you explore the emotions of the city and to gain a greater understanding of what makes Scousers Scousers. Of course, one of the major things that makes Scousers Scousers is our heritage as a port city, or more precisely, as one of the major port cities of the transatlantic slave trade. As David Lammy highlighted yesterday, the International Slavery Museum has been open for over 10 years, working with our Black communities in the city and beyond to tell the story of transatlantic slavery and its legacies. We're immensely proud of the work that the museum's done to date, but I'm really looking forward to sharing more with you all next year about our exciting plans for the future for that museum. When we talk about the International Slavery Museum, we use the strapline, "We remember, we act." The legacies of transatlantic slavery are still very much part of our lives today, as have been discussed in this conference already. And slavery itself is sadly not a thing of the past. We plan to extend the museum to better explore these issues and provide more space for reflection and learning. As my colleague, Dr. Richard Benjamin, also talked about this morning, Liverpool's involvement in transatlantic slavery is written all over our public realm. He was right when he stated that we have tens, if not hundreds of streets named after people we wouldn't choose to tell our children about. But this is a history that the city does not shy away from. The City Council apologised for its involvement in the slave trade back in 2007. And as mentioned, we are actively involved with the City Council and with our community partners in a project to add interpretation to those street names so that we can all learn and understand from this part of our heritage. I hope you'll all get the chance to immerse yourself in a beautiful architecture and a beautiful public realm, but that is deeply embedded in its history as well. The International Slavery Museum is, of course, a must-visit museum when you're here. But I want to be clear that that is not our answer to what we are doing about the issues raised by the Black Lives Matter movement or the issues of decolonisation. The histories of our Black communities is and rightly should be told across all of our sites. In the Museum of Liverpool, we will do more to celebrate the achievements of our Black residents and our Black community's contribution to the city. In the Walker Art Gallery, we will do more to recognise the history of our collection, how it came here in Liverpool, and to ensure better representation of Black artists. And at World Museum, where we house a truly amazing ethnographic collection, we are engaging in our Where Next project, which aims to work with different communities to decolonise parts of our display. This is a piece of work that is currently ongoing, and I'm sure is something my colleagues would love to talk to you about more next year when you're here. So keep an eye out for that. I, of course, believe it would be worth a trip to Liverpool for National Museums Liverpool venues alone. But if you need more persuasion, we do also have here in Liverpool the fabulous Tate Liverpool and the beautiful Victoria Museum and Gallery up at the university. Not to mention a really incredible music scene, some fantastic theatres, a chance for a trip on a ferry across the Mersey, and possibly even an opportunity to see the likely Premier League champions. I'm not saying whether that's going to be Everton or Liverpool this year, but it's looking quite good for both of them. Liverpool's a city which embraces a wide range of cultural activity. So Jean, I think you said on Monday that as a dancer, you needed more time to reflect and that you might be tempted to create a dance piece around your views of conference. If you want to premiere that next year in Liverpool, it's the kind of thing we'd love. So I'm sure we can find you a slot. As I said at the start, I realise that many of you have been able to attend conference this year because it's been virtual. And I know the MA will be working hard to maintain the virtual element next year. But if you can, come Ed, join me in Liverpool next year for some great discussions and a few bevies in our sites. Thanks.
Laura, you might live to regret inviting me to premiere a dance piece in Liverpool. Wow. Thank you, Laura, for that brilliance, whetting our appetite for next year's conference and telling us about what Liverpool has to offer. Really resonates with me back in Glasgow. You know, we're both cities that have been built on the profits of the slave trade, both cities that have been recognised at European level for outstanding culture, and both cities that are full of fantastic people. But I think your fantastic statistic there about Liverpool as a city of kindness has just trumped us in Glasgow. But you've just beautifully highlighted that Liverpool absolutely has got what it takes in spades to be a cracking host city for the Museums Association conference in 2021. And thanks to you, Gillian, for nailing that summing up of the week. Beautifully done, highlighting the warmth and the insight that we've all shared together this week. And congratulations again on your new appointment with the Museums Association. I'd like to give my personal thanks back to you, Gillian, to Sharon Heal, Director of Museums Association, to Simon Stevens, and to all the team at MA for inviting me to join you at conference this year. It has been a pleasure to share many virtual rooms with you this week, and I hope to see everybody in Liverpool next year. And a huge thanks to all of you, all that have been delegates with us across this week's incredible conference. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for making the time. Thank you for your ideas. Thank you for everything in the chat room. Your participation has really breathed life into this conference and made it a fantastic one. So All that's left for me to say is travel with hope, travel with kindness, travel with courage. Remember your touchstones from conference this year. And until we meet again in Liverpool, whether that be online or in person, travel well. I'm looking forward to seeing you.